Oh my God. I am so excited for this week's Critique-Opolis. How long have I been talking about The Player? Like,
Almost for probably as long as I've known you.
so, for those of you who don't know, old Jay, before he was the honey guy, way before he was the honey guy, had aspirations to be a Hollywood studio executive. Until I moved to Hollywood and found out what it was all about, some other things happened, and we'll get into that at some other episode. But in short, it lost its luster. But when I was a teenager, I saw this movie, The Player, by Robert Altman, and Grand Canyon back to back. And I don't know what else to say aside from the spirit grabbed me.
Right.
And I've been talking about it with Louisa for years. And I actually gave a speech about this and Grand Canyon to my Toastmasters group. Don't let me forget to focus on the uhs and the ands.
Okay.
And this movie and Grand Canyon were the genesis of the conversation. That they were at the forefront of the talk. But in The Player, Griffin Mill is our lead character, and he plays a studio executive who is on the outs, or is rumored to be on the outs. He plays a writer's executive. So writers come into him in the studio and pitch their stories with the hopes of getting a deal. But the studio can only make 11 to 12 deals a year. So his office and his phone is flooded with phone calls year-round. But ultimately, he ends up... There's kind of no way around it. He's kind of amoral and not a nice guy. But you and I were talking about this about a week ago, that all the commentary and literature on this movie frames him as a sociopath.
Yeah.
But he doesn't really have that dead behind the eyes quality. Do you think?
Well, I wouldn't... I don't know the difference between quality and having that look, but he has that look.
You think?
I do.
Well,
I couldn't put it into words watching the movie or even after, but...
I might be a little sympathetic to him.
Okay.
Just because I like his
No, I still
station.
like him. It doesn't make him, like, worse or, like, better in my eyes. I just...
As you know, we always do a notebook on the movies that we review, and Louisa did this one, and it's fantabulous. There is a section in the slide deck that you produced that discussed he doesn't really see a difference in potentially losing his job and catching a murder rap. That's the other piece of this story. We should start off. To be perfectly honest, I've been dreading doing this podcast because I was afraid we just wouldn't, or I wouldn't fully give the best proper review I could give about it, because I hold it in such high regard. This is a movie that makes fun of Hollywood, or at least puts a light on what Hollywood is, and doesn't pull any punches about what it is. In fact, the research that you did pulled up, there's a long history of satires about Hollywood from the 30s till now.
Yes. I didn't quite realize, but yes, I saw that.
And there's so much here. There's no way that we can compress all this into 45 minutes, but
right.
We'll start with... You want to just start with the story?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So, as we begin, the audience sees the background of the CEO's office, where the receptionist sits, and there's a clapper to indicate this movie is starting, and the audience is seeing a manufactured reality. And then the movie begins. So it starts off with phones being answered in the office, and the protege to the head secretary is being critiqued. Griffin Mill, our key character, rolls up in his Range Rover, and this entire 8-minute section is a long tracking shot to give the audience the view of the inner workings of this exec's life and how the studio functions. Everyone is being critiqued, and people are pitching stories to Griffin, and he has to kind of brush them off, and if they're not absolutely electric, he exhibits this vibe of, I'm sure there's a good word for this, just kind of not now, later, we'll set up a meeting, but it's very kind of, he has kind of a passé attitude to everything. Everyone's clawing at him to try to get a deal made. And he, in his position, is very aware of this. Now, I fell in love with, this is going to sound odd, but when I first saw it, I just fell in love with something that your slide deck called out. And it took me, and when I was 17, I couldn't recognize it, and I'm pulling up the slide deck now.
Okay.
But there's a section that you have that's the subversion of the dream, the comparison between the American dream and the Hollywood dream.
Yes.
And as a kid, I saw this high-powered guy his job is to pick movies. And he wears these gorgeous suits, drives a nice car, pulls right up to his office, has a big office, and just sits and hears pitches about movies all day. And I remember seeing this being like, that is the only job anyone should ever want. And really what it came down to when I read this slide deck, this perfectly encapsulated what was happening in my little idiot 17-year-old mind. The American dream requires hard work, effort, and discipline, where the Hollywood dream, even though I couldn't admit this to myself, requires luck, proximity, and something for nothing. This movie really put in focus. A lot of these executives get paid huge sums of money to hear pitches and pick movies. But a lot of Hollywood, and that's what the next slide deck details, is the evolution of the Hollywood identity. First, how it starts out with a conscious identity. And I think they take a picture of George Clooney. And they start off with a sketch, and they're referencing Raymond Chandler's The Little Sister. Characters actively pretend to be something they are not to fit the Hollywood mold, just to fit in and be seen and be invited to the right parties and start to develop the right relationships and have the right friends. It's a conscious wearing of a mask. A lot of people in Hollywood, they don't have their own identity. They're just trying to do whatever it takes, and they don't know what it takes to get seen or get cast or put in a movie or get in a song or whatever. And then they're sketching this frame out of George Clooney in this picture where it says the subconscious identity is a reference to Elmore Leonard's Get Shorty. The identity infiltrates the mind. Characters begin to view real-life scenes as if they were a film or consider real people from the perspective of a casting agent. So people aren't, the authenticity of who people are is eroded away by this desire to be whatever
someone else wants them to be.
The casting agent wants in order to get that job. And this is, I had heard about this. I mean, it's all over literature and movies about Hollywood, but when you actually see it, it is absolutely real. Like, just being in, and you see it after being in Hollywood for, you can see it in a couple weeks or in a couple months, but after like 3 months, I'm like, God, everybody here has an agenda.
Yeah.
And they're not, no, I wasn't having legitimate, genuine conversations with people because everyone's trying to get to the next thing. And then stage 3, there's an actual photograph of George Clooney. Robert Altman's the player, whereas stage 3 is complete identity. The mask replaces the face. The character is unable to view anything outside of the Hollywood context. Literal survival depends on treating a murder investigation like a script rewrite. And this is really the crux of what the player is about. Griffin Mill he starts receiving postcards from a writer, but the writer doesn't identify himself, and the postcards get kind of elaborate. They're self-referential. You get that one of Humphrey Bogart pointing the gun at him. You got another one that was like a folded up piece of film. The one where he opened up in his office, on the inside it said, "In the name of all writers, I'm going to kill you." And the one from Humphrey Bogart said, "You were going to call me back, still waiting."
Yeah.
And he said he just keeps receiving these, and he gets really nervous. And he does his own research to figure out who is sending him these poison pen letters. And he narrows it down to a person who he thinks is the culprit. In fact, he was invited to, I want to remember this one. He gets invited to, where's your studio one? I know I'm killing. No, there's one here of, He gets invited. You remember he gets invited to where he meets the agent and the writer who pitched him the movie that ends up getting made at the Sunset Tower Hotel, where he bumps into Malcolm McDowell, and Malcolm McDowell kind of chews him out. Says, if you're going to talk bad about me, have the nerve to do it to my face.
100% exactly remember. Yep.
Well, he got a call. His secretary said, Joe Gillis wants to meet you there. And he's like, I don't know who Joe Gillis is. And somebody next to him says, oh, that's a direct reference to the dead screenwriter in Sunset Boulevard. And he knows that since this isn't a real person and it's referencing all the death threats and pseudo death threats he's been getting, this is the person who's been sending him these cards.
Yeah.
And he doesn't actually see him there, but this is what I mean about there's so many things in this movie about it being self-referential. They made this with a lot of Hollywood people who just want to who are all about making a movie about Hollywood.
Yeah.
And I believe a lot of these people, a lot of these actors didn't get their regular rate. They just went at scale just so they could be part of a Robert Altman movie.
Actually, in my research, a lot of them, if not all of them, did it for free.
Really? And this is, because this is a movie about making movies, you'll see there's a few scenes where all the executives are in a screening room watching dailies and rushes, and the movie or the rush that's actually up on the screen while the conversation is happening between the executives is with real celebrities.
Yeah.
Now, again, this was in 1991. This is an older movie, depending on how old you are when you listen to this. But Robert Altman was he's been working, he is now deceased, but he worked for decades. But he went through periods where he was considered box office poison, and where he made great movies like Nashville. Who else was involved with Nashville? It was directed by Robert Altman, but Jerry Weintraub made that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my hero Jerry Weintraub made that. The one who made Karate Kid, and Karate Kid was a band, took Elvis on tour, and Hollywood is very incestuous. It's all very related. I'm sorry. I'm going on, running out at the mouth. I'm not letting you talk. You built this thing. I apologize.
No worries.
Was there some part of the deck that you wanted to reference?
I have to go back to it, but I don't know.
This thing is really awesome, and I should, as you're looking at this,
Yeah.
if anybody is listening, we have a YouTube channel where we put up the audio, but neither Luisa or I really are big fans of being on camera. And if there is a way to put this slide deck up, or any of the slide decks of the movies we do, we got to figure out a way to do that. I could probably there's got to be a way to make something, either to put it up on YouTube or somewhere, because these are really good.
Mm-hmm.
There is a scene where, I digressed. We're going to come back to you.
Okay.
But I am going to point out that Griffin receives so many of these letters and these postcards that he tracks down who he thinks is sending him these letters, and he narrows it down to a writer who pitched him a story that didn't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And he tracks him to his house and talks to his girlfriend, who says he's at the Rialto.
Yep, watching a movie.
And he oddly flirts with the girlfriend over the phone and watches her outside of her window,
Mm-hmm.
which is another, just kind of zeroes in on the idea that everybody is always watching, that somebody is always watching.
Mm-hmm. Unbeknownst to you, because she had no idea.
She had no idea. And he admitted it to her later,
Yes.
but today we'd call this stalking.
For sure.
But, so we'll suspend that for right now. Griffin goes to the theater and creates a faux meeting. He pretends to have just bumped into this writer, David Kahane.
Mm-hmm.
And David is dejected. He clearly hasn't had a project that's gone anywhere. He's angry, and he doesn't respond well to Griffin. They go out for a drink, and Griffin tries to smooth it over by saying, we'll have another meeting. We'll see if we can make this go anywhere. I can't promise you I'll make the movie, but let's start again. Just no more and which is, if you look at it, that's a completely reasonable way to deal with people. I don't really think there's anything psychotic about that. But they have, David Kahane has been drinking too much, and he's already an irritable person, and it kind of goes off the rails. He says mean things, and they bump into each other outside of the bar, and there is an altercation, and Griffin loses his stuff and kills the writer. And now faced with the gravity of having murdered somebody, he has to try and quickly, because he's in an alley in Pasadena, he has to cover it up somehow and then pretend like nothing happened.
Right.
And the rest of the movie is a balancing act between his concern of his job being replaced
Mm-hmm.
as a writer's exec by an up-and-comer named Larry Levy. And Larry Levy is played by Peter Gallagher.
Yes.
It's a balancing act between that concern and the concern that he may be going to prison, or he might be arrested or charged with this crime.
Mm-hmm.
But they are equally weighed as elements of concern.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he doesn't want to go to jail, but he is just as concerned about maintaining his career.
Yep.
Let's see what else you had in the. Did you find what you were looking for?
No, not really. I mean, I think honestly, you're doing a fine job of covering it. So,
Let's see what else do we have here. The recurring element in postmodern simulacra. Okay, the postmodern satires examine Hollywood as a place where the artificial is superior to the real. And having lived there, I can absolutely agree with that. Sunset Boulevard in 1950, Norma Desmond is the tragic realization that someone who has lived within a Hollywood simulacrum for so long that she can no longer distinguish between fact and fiction. We should really see that.
I've seen this movie.
Is it
before.
good?
Yeah. It's amazing. Who do they say is in it?
Norma Desmond. And
If
I
it's
think
the
that's
movie
the
that
character.
I'm thinking about,
1950.
Is it Gloria Swanson?
I never saw it.
I think I saw it.
The Truman Show with Jim Carrey, film satirizes the manufactured small-town America dream, revealing it to be a dome of constant surveillance where reality is the unit of production. Mulholland Drive, which I loved, but I think you might have a hard time with.
I've been told that multiple times.
Because it's David Lynch.
Yep.
And he collapses the distinction between dream and reality.
Yep, Gloria Swanson, I win.
Okay. Illustrating that in Hollywood, the hard work associated with the American dream leads not to success, but to murder and suicide. Mm-hmm. Which is... And he does it in ways that are... They're alluded to. Mm-hmm. The Hollywood ending, the recurring element in these satires is the subversion between the Hollywood ending where commercial films demand up endings where virtue triumphs. Satires like The Player mock this requirement by providing twisted happy endings that the characters do not deserve. These endings reinforce the industry's amorality, showing that in the Hollywood dream, bad people can escape unpunished. We'll leave you with that as far as what the ending was. Mm-hmm. Who else makes an appearance in this? Sidney Pollack?
Cher,
Susan Sarandon,
Julia
Roberts, Bruce Willis, Peter Falk. I mean, there's so...
it says that there are 66 cameos.
There's so many.
You can't, like... They
And
go
again,
by so quickly. We talked about this, I think, after we watched it. Like, sometimes
Elliot
you're like, oh, yeah,
Gould.
that's Cher for sure. And then other times John Cusack, people are in the background and it goes...
Angelica Houston.
A quick second,
Yep.
Angelica Houston, and you can't comprehend that because I love seeing that in movies. That's one of my favorite things. Like, I'm like, oh, look at that person.
They appear in the movie as every people, as just they're regular people. Mm-hmm. They're just not a character on screen.
Yeah. They're having meetings in the background.
They're having meetings, or they're having lunches, or they're attending manufactured Hollywood philanthropic events. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, I mean, so many people.
Were you surprised by this?
By what?
Did you do 2 slide decks?
No, I don't think so. But I clicked on. I might have made 2 mind maps. They say the same thing, but there
they
are
do?
2 of them.
I gotcha. All right. Well,
because sometimes I forget.
That's all right.
In clicking on them versus.
You have one here called The Anatomy of Griffin Mill, which I like. It's a photograph which is an X-ray of a guy in a suit with a water bottle and a postcard in his pocket. What were you going to say?
Yeah, that's from the slide deck.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Pools of fear and earnestness that allow him to pass as a sympathetic everyman who has fallen out of step with the world. We convince ourselves to root for him. I got to tell you, at 17, I didn't see any of this. I just saw that suit and the Range Rover. I'm like, this guy gets paid to meet with movie stars and make deals. Mm-hmm. That sounds amazing.
And he gets paid a lot of money for that.
Yeah. The writer's exec label, a moniker giving him the illusion of caring about art, although it ultimately functions as an epitaph for actual creativity. An empty suit. underneath the tailored clothing, he is a violent criminal, a sociopath, and chillingly dispassionate. That's one thing I said in my speech was his suits were designed by Alexander Julian.
Mm-hmm.
They were what's called the soft suit or a post Ralph Lauren design.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who haven't seen it, we live in the Midwest, and in the 80s and 90s, white men everywhere wore conservative suits, or bankers wore a lot of pinstripe suits, which he does wear at the end when he's the studio head. Mm-hmm. But throughout the movie, he's wearing what would be, for anyone who knows anything about men's fashion, there is a stark difference between people who work in, before AI took over, in advertising agencies. They wore soft suits with lighter fabrics and more. They didn't have the stiffness of a banker's tailoring. More soft and relaxed fabrics, somewhat more engaging colors. Like the colors of his suits they weren't wild, but they weren't, I wouldn't call them wild. They were more like, they were formal dress wear for someone who worked in a creative field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well said.
Like he wore, what suit I really liked his was that brown jacket with the cream tie with the spirals on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like no banker would ever wear that. No stockbroker would ever wear that. But someone who runs a movie studio, definitely. Lots of silks and linens. Postcard in the pocket. Harassed by mail reading "Your Hollywood is dead," a physical manifestation of the artist he has discarded. This was one of the more interesting decks that you have one in here that breaks down the Hollywood simulacrum, which is kind of a spiral made up of a film reel. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit, well, I think maybe before I talk about that, there's one that breaks down the new and the old evil.
Okay.
We made they're two up from that, right under the anatomy at Griffin Mill.
Mm-hmm. Also, did you mention that Griffin Mill, his character is played by Tim Robbins?
Tim Robbins. Okay, we got 30 minutes into this before Tim Robbins is a tall drink of water to begin with, and I don't want to. These suits definitely fit him, but like lanky, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Who else was? Byron James plays who is no longer with us, but he plays. Is it Levison? Harvey
Yes,
Levison?
I think so. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Plays the studio head. And what I found interesting about the very intro of this is when this is a studio that was financed by a bank in Boston. Mm. After his morning pitch meetings, Griffin goes in to see Levison, and there's some 20-year-old frat kid in there in his office looking at photos of celebrity women and trying to put together a date with them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's right.
And you find out that he is the son of the bank in Boston that finances the studio. And this kid, did you catch at the end what happened with him, why Levison got fired?
No, I don't think so.
So you remember when Griffin and the Ice Queen are at the spa and they're in the mud bath?
Yes.
And he gets a call from Sidney Pollack, his attorney?
Yes.
And he says, Levison's out. What is that kid's name?
I have no idea.
He's like, this kid went home with the clap or something. Did you get that?
Nope, I don't.
So he was whoring around
Yeah.
all over Hollywood.
Yeah.
He was under Levison's watch because he was really, Levison kind of, for lack of a better word, had to babysit him, and he was running around Hollywood, and he got an STD, and he went home, and Dad found out about it and then fired Levison.
Oh,
Did you miss
totally
that?
missed all that.
Yeah, he said the kid went home with the clap.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Definitely.
yeah, so like they just kind of, but this was right before Griffin has to go in for a lineup to see if he's been identified. So the old evil, the subject being Griffin Mill. Griffin represents a harmless greed curdled into psychopathy, maintains the pretense of caring about film and the artistic process, fears a murder rap and the corporate demotion with the same exact level of anxiety as actually getting hit with a murder charge. The new evil is Larry Levy, played with effortless smarm, and that's what Gallagher did a great job of that with his dark suit, glasses, kind of slicked up hair, and he just kind of had everywhere that Griffin went in this movie, Larry Levy was either talked about or showed up.
Yep.
And it really starts making Griffin anxious. He's like, why is everyone talking about Larry Levy? Now Larry works with, what is it? Griffin works with writers. Larry works with material.
Yeah.
And he's brought over to Griffin's studio from Fox. All business, no show represents cold hard macroeconomic corporate synergy, believes writers are overrated and executives could easily do the creative work themselves. He mentions this in his first meeting, that people like Griffin are shuffling through thousands of scripts a year.
Yeah.
And he says that's just crazy. You can just pick a story out of the newspaper and modify it. And he goes through this little exercise where he takes a piece out of the newspaper about a woman who was hit by a car and paralyzed, and in a couple sentences frames that into a story about tragedy and then overcoming tragedy through the power of the human spirit. Like, that's just a premise. That's not full story.
Right.
But he pitches this, and clearly he has already been brought over to the studio, which Griffin doesn't like. And Griffin hears this, and he's like, you're cutting the legs out from what I do in front of me. He's like, that we're not doing that. We're not getting rid of it. You need the writers to develop the story. But Larry Levy is looking at this as like, we can eliminate we have the potential to eliminate an entire component of the storytelling process and save a bunch of money because we don't have to pay writers anymore. Which it doesn't end up happening, but these are the things that create all this anxiety within Griffin. You have this section called the hypocrisy of the happy ending, the final cut and the delivery. The film wraps up with a highly contrived, unearned happy ending where I don't know if I want to say this part.
Yeah.
Test screenings. Oh, but we can talk about the movie that gets made that Griffin brings in. The test screening fails in Canoga Park. Final film features Bruce Willis busting into the gas chamber with a shotgun to rescue Julia Roberts. And when this story is being pitched to Griffin, the writer is like, we want no stars.
Right.
We want no Hollywood endings. A good person is wrongly convicted of a crime and they are executed. And that's reality. And then when they test it, everybody hates it.
Yep.
But then the writer is like, they rewrite and reshoot the whole thing, going against exactly what he was pitching the story on, and now he's all for it because his movie's gotten made and he's getting paid a bunch. And this kind of calls back to the previous piece of the slide deck where it discusses characters actively pretend to be something they are not to fit into the Hollywood mold. Andy, I believe, was the writer's name. He had this idea, I believe in it, that this is really going to move people, and he's able to sell it.
Yeah.
And they get it made.
Yeah.
And people see what his premise is, and they're like, that sucks. He's and in short, Andy takes on the position, you're right, we're going to change it. And I don't care what we have to do to make it a viable product. And he does it. Which just goes to show you how the people who work in that industry, like, they're really morally bankrupt. And in a way, I kind of understand it. You know, and that, like, they have an idea for a story and they want to make money on it. I mean, like, everybody's trying to get paid.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
And if you're going to get paid, your idea is going to be put on screen.
Right.
And this is before AI and TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. Having a movie made was it's a big deal now, but it was a huge deal because there was only 15, 20, 30 movies that came out a year, big movies.
Probably, yeah.
In the 80s and early 90s. So I guess I do kind of understand, especially since now there's no gatekeepers. If you have an idea, you can make it. I've made things. When you went off to see, who'd you go out? You went out somewhere last night?
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
To Frida Petito's. To celebrate 21st birthday.
Right, you went to see Monica. While you did that, I made a little movie on Reels for Instagram.
Okay.
And there's nobody who's telling me not to, or that I can't. I just made what came into my head.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't have the reach of a picture from Paramount or RKO or Warner Brothers.
Right.
But anybody who wanted to view it could.
Yeah.
Which is so different from what movies were in the 80s and 90s. Now, I realize it's not the same scale, but that's kind of not the point. I didn't see this bit. The ultimate target. The enemy in a film like this is the audience. If people don't go to see these manufactured films, they're not going to get made. That's by Robert Altman. He says Altman's equal opportunity approach to satire pinpoints the beaten state of the American decency and blames the viewer for the carnage. Which, in this humble reviewer's outlook, again, kind of makes sense. We cheered for Griffin Mill. We wanted him to beat Larry Levy. We wanted the happy ending. No argument there.
I would agree, yep.
By rooting for the sociopath to win, the audience proves they prefer the artificial, consequence-free Hollywood dream to reality and justice. It is a bully hitting you with your own fist, asking you why you are punching yourself. And he is not wrong. But I would counter to that. People go to the movies, not all the time, but a lot of the time. People want an escape.
Yeah.
Life's tough. Lots of it.
Yep.
And everybody wants an aspirin. They want a sedative or something just to give you a break, give your mind a break.
Yep.
That's what the movies exist for. And to watch something, who wants to see something when they've had a hard week? They want to see something about somebody else having a crappy life in another country,
Right.
and then it never getting better.
Mm-hmm.
Walk out of that theater and throw yourself off a bridge. I think when I read reviews like this, I'm like, I feel like these reviews kind of miss the point. So yeah, of course we want that. And yes, Griffin Mill is a sociopath who murdered somebody, and he goes through some crap, but gets away with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we want that because we know it's not the audience, even though we're playing a part in the movie when in that beginning tracking shot we're watching everything unfold. That's us watching it unfold, but it's not us. It's not the human being who can differentiate between this is artificial and I am here watching this, but I'm in my real life watching the artificial. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a lot of these reviews kind of suspend that. They suspend the idea that, like, you know, we're just allowing this and we placate this kind of behavior in Hollywood. No, we expect you to make the story play out the way it doesn't play out in real life.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Because on some level, we want to feel what we don't get to feel.
That's why I would go to the movies.
Right. So that's, and I always feel the need to apologize to the audience if I talk. I spend a lot of time talking. I don't let you talk, but I just have a lot to say about this movie because it's just played such a big impact in my life.
Yes.
And I knew you enjoyed it, but like when I saw, like, things just changed for me when I saw him. Like, this is right. Like, I saw it with Ryan Hill.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, "Yep, that's where we're going." I'm like, yes, it is. And after a year out there, I'm like, "Oh, this place is awful." Well, at some other time, I'll tell you the story of getting booted out of Paramount, but yeah, just a great movie. Like, and we say that about a lot of the stuff that we see, but this is verified, rated 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. I didn't see any comment on YouTube or in Rotten Tomatoes that was anything other than congratulatory and fawning over this movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You can comment beyond yes.
I agree. I mean, you've seen this movie a lot.
Probably
and
20
I've only
times.
seen it this one time.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard you talk about it and reference it a lot. But I don't know.
I feel like this is a movie for people who like stories about Hollywood. Like,
Yeah.
for any of you folks who went to see La La Land, which I did not, but that was about Hollywood, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Especially if you have they throw in a murder with it, so there's a story to
The story.
there's a story to the story.
Yeah.
But you also see the pressures of the people who work behind the scenes or the executives putting it together. I remember I had the hardest time trying to make my old man understand that. He's like, you know, if you go out to Hollywood, you're just going to try and be an actor. I'm like, no, I'd actually like to get
There's
into.
more, yeah.
There's a business behind it,
Mm-hmm.
but the more you learn about the business, the more. They're right. It is amoral.
Mm-hmm.
They manufacture things, and they manufacture things with people, their hopes and dreams, and you're surrounded by people all over that city who have desires to get to where everybody wants to get to the same place.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't know how to do it, so they're just willing to throw anybody or the next to their best friend under the bus to get there. It's a brutal town, but they tell good stories.
They do.
There's no getting around it. And I feel I'm a little dismayed that we can't spend more time on this in order to get our quota in for the amount of time we have on Buzzsprout, we can only spend 45 minutes on it. But I kid you not, I could talk about this movie for 3 hours. I could talk about this movie for the length of time that the film runs. Over. But I think we're pretty much at time here, so we're gonna wrap it up. But I gotcha. Shut up. Anything else you want to close with, or we?
I just want to add that Robert Altman was a great film director, and he just I believe, and I'm not like an expert or anything like that, but his style was different than a lot of people's, and that has been pointed out. And he was a faculty member at the University of Michigan, in the 1970s, and then I think he went on to do his film directing career and that other stuff.
What was he a faculty member of?
The School of Theater.
Wow.
And so I had it up here for a second. Because he went to the university, I think when he passed away, they acquired, I just love this, but 700 boxes of things from his career.
Wow.
And so they're at they're at a library, and you can I don't know if you can
we're gonna have to go
look
up there.
Look at them or but I remember when the university got this I don't know what you call it, collection, and what a big deal it was, and I was like, I know that name. Who is that? And so the Robert Altman collection is a massive array of some 700 boxes containing documents, scripts, photos, props, costumes, and paraphernalia related to the enormously influential career of a cinematic titan.
That's at which library? Is that the Graduate Library?
I'm not actually exactly sure, because I wouldn't want to say the wrong library without making sure I was correct. But
it's one of the U of M. Just type in where's Robert Altman's stuff at U of M.
It might be at the Duderstadt Center, because there's a thing on the website that I'm looking at that says it's going to be closed for maintenance issues and stuff.
Sure.
And it's the Art and the Architecture and Engineering Library.
Well, we're going to have to go up there at some point. He made another movie called Shortcuts, which
they referenced that.
That we should watch that at some point. I did see it, but it's long.
Okay.
I remember being charged up to see that, but having struggled to stay awake for it.
Excuse me, I found it. He taught in the Department of Theater and Drama.
All right.
His tenure included directing and mentoring students in various productions. He was known for his innovative approaches to theater education.
More on him in another episode. Thanks for watching this with me.
Local.
Yeah, thanks for watching this with me.
It was a good movie.
Yeah.
I'd watch it again.
We're on to another one. Listen up next week. Hugs and kisses. Toodles. Not going to say goodbye?
Goodbye. Thanks for listening.